to A Well-Designed Business. My name is Luann Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company Window Works from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. Barclay Butera is back on the show, his second appearance. That's right. He was on the show episode 122. And if you missed that show, please go back. You'll hear more about his career. We kind of pick up where we left off from that episode. Now, a little bit about Barclay. Since 1994, he has been the creative force behind his prestigious design firm with showrooms in Newport Beach, California, Corona del Mar, California, and Park City, Utah. In addition to his thriving interior design business, Barclay is a definite standout leader in our industry for developing and earning licensing agreements. You'll hear him today talk about how he vets potential licensing partners, and you'll also hear how he's perfectly clear about what his responsibility is in that relationship. So listen in for it. As soon as you hear it, you're going to be like, no wonder she noticed that. And the other thing is that you'll notice that he credits his parents with teaching and modeling this particular skill for him. All right. Now, some of Barclay's licensing partners include, of course, number one on that list, our beloved Kravet. That's right, the sponsor of our show, Kravet. Now, Barclay has indoor fabrics, outdoor fabrics, and carpets with Kravet. If you are not familiar with them, I suggest you head over to Kravet.com and check it out for yourself. Another licensing partner of Barclay's is Jaipur, who I'm proud to share with you today for the first time that I will be welcoming Jaipur as a brand new sponsor to the podcast. So later this month, you'll be learning more about Jaipur. Other of Barclay's licensing partners include Bradburn Home Lighting, Castell Outdoor Furniture, Eastern Accents, Leftbank Art, Lexington Home Brands, Mirror Image, Napa Home and Garden, among others. Now, as far as his press and his media credentials, let's just say it is a very esteemed list, and if I were going to read that list, I'd probably have to add a half hour to the show. But have no fear, they are in the show notes, so please go help yourself and check out all of the outstanding publications and media that Barclay has appeared in. So before I introduce Barclay to you, let's together give a huge thanks to our sponsor, Kravet Inc., for both supporting the show and for arranging for Barclay to be on the show with us. If you have yet to open your trade account at Kravet, please do it today. Go to Kravet.com. Now, I have to tell you, whether you are a hashtag baby designer or a hashtag seasoned designer, Kravet is for you. There are no minimums on orders for anything, for fabric, furniture, rugs, wallpaper, no minimums whatsoever. Order what you want, for who you want, when you want. All right. And the Kravet brand has everything you need, from their smart fabric lines all the way to the fabulous luxury collections by esteemed interior designers such as Barclay Butera. One of my favorite things about Kravet is this ability to source both practical all the way to luxurious in one place. And don't forget that you can use the code AWDB10 for 10% off for any one order of Kravet fabric, wallpaper, or trim. Go to Kravet.com today and get started. All right, let me introduce you to Barclay Butera. Hi, Barclay. Thanks so much for joining me again on A Well-Designed Business.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Barclay, I had this morning and a little bit yesterday was just listening a little bit to our interview that we did a couple of years ago, just to refresh my memory on some of the things that we covered so that I didn't repeat them. But, it just really recalled for me again what an outstanding business person you are. So I have to just say, even in the last couple of years, that I'm almost at 500, or probably by the time this airs, I'm at 500 interviews or more. And you really are a standout in the interviews as far as, forget the design aesthetic, that's over the top, but as a accomplished business person. So really, really cool. And I'm grateful for you to take your time to come back again on the show.
Absolutely.
So the thing is, what brings you back, first of all, let's take a few minutes and talk about our friends at Kravet. Of course, you've got a new collection, fabric collection at Kravet called Sagamore. And this collection is really a departure for you and what you've designed in the past. Would you tell us a little bit about it?
It's actually the materials, the embroidery, the velvets, it's a little bit more sophisticated than what I've done for Kravet in the past. And it's driven by color, but not just blue and white. So you're talking about, rich colors that could be even grays and charcoals and plum, but it takes me out of that, that base, which a lot of people think I rely on, and that's a lot of blue and white. So I think it's a juxtaposition on what I've done in the past. And
what was the reason? Because, we know you for that. That's your signature look, the blue and white, the coastal chic, it's not a bad thing. It's a gorgeous thing, right? So why with this collection did you make a departure from that?
I think because I'm so well known in that, genre category, I have to show the diversity in what I do, period, in design. So, what we're doing right now, for the most part, in Park City is very, very transitional, borderline contemporary. So, sometimes people don't understand that I hit every different category of interiors, and coastal is one of those categories, but, it branches out throughout the country depending on the client.
Okay, so that's an interesting thought. So the idea is that outside looking in, we're all like, hey, Barclay, coastal chic, blue and white. Yeah, I love that look. Feels great. Beach guy, right? But what you're saying is that your actual design that you and your team are executing for real life projects isn't all just coastal chic, blue and white, that you're really doing, all types of different aesthetics and color palettes.
Correct. And, I as I mature in this, in this business, I think I've become, much more diverse in the way I live, which kind of reflects my design projects.
Okay, so now this begs the other question from a branding standpoint, right? Because it has served many years. I'm sure it served you well many years to have this. You have claimed this branding. You have put it out there to identify you with this. And so are you making a transition on the brand level? Or no, Luann, don't get down crazy lane here. It was just this collection with Kravet, and I do have a complete ability to design for any client what's going to make their home unique to them. But I just are you changing direction in your brand, I guess is really the bottom line.
Actually, if you're talking on the licensing side, every license relationship wants me to push, to the next level. And so what I'm introducing with Lexington in April is a departure on anything I've ever done for them. Borderline, it's a transitional line, but it works outside of the box of what I've done for them in the past.
Okay. And you also have something coming with Jaipur in 2020, don't you, as well?
Correct. And Jaipur will be, contemporary. It actually will have a lot of different design aspects, again, different than what I've normally done.
So is this a thing where, okay, so we're all industry here. We're talking industry people, and you're saying my real life designs run the gamut. And these are some of the things that are being reflected in my real life designs. And so with Lexington, with Kravet, with Jaipur, I'm I'm moving beyond the box that I am identified with, right? So is it that, hey, but for all the consumer facing on my website, we're still leading the charge, talking about the blue and white is so noticeable on your website, even down to when I go to your e-com site and I look at the collection of the lamps and so forth. It's literally permeates the entire brand there. So is that sort of like, yay, all you consumers out there, you still know Barclay for who he is, but Barclay, the industry guy, that's a living, breathing man, company, corporation that does real design, actually we're wider than that, blue and white and coastal. Is that what's happening?
Yes. And, if what we're really trying to do is show many, many different projects that take you to different levels of my design on the website. And it slowly but surely, all that photography is changing.
Interesting. Okay.
And,
Go ahead.
my large showroom in Newport, we obviously have an area that's still blue and white, because if I don't do it, then people are like, well, does he do it any longer? So it is that kind of like a fine balance of making sure that people understand, I was rooted in that, but then this is the diversity of what I do.
Right. Well, it's the truth, because you can imagine a design enthusiast from anywhere in the country or the world that has admired your work for many years and finally finds himself in Newport and like, I've got to go to Barclay's showroom, right? And if they walked in and they didn't see it, to your point, the blue and white, they'd be like, wait, let me go look at the door again. Is this Barclay Butera's shop, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So it's interesting from a business standpoint, here on the podcast, we're always talking about how do we niche ourselves? How do we attract our ideal client? How do we establish our brand identity? And so your company is a mature company. It's 25 years, your anniversary this year, right?
Yeah. We actually just celebrated last Thursday. I opened up December 5th, 1994, and I celebrated last week on Thursday, December 5th.
That's awesome.
25 years later.
Congratulations, right? So what you're saying is as a business that grows and evolves, just like you've grown and evolved, both as a designer, as a business person, as a man, that we're not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but things are changing.
Absolutely.
Love it. Okay.
And, I think it also like shows more interest in what I do. Like it's important that my next book shows, a diversity in design so that people don't think, there's one category to me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. And the next book is coming out when?
Well, we just submitted an outline, so it takes a while, probably a year.
Yeah, a year or two. Yep. Okay. Well, we'll look forward to that. You might have to come back and talk about it. Okay. So now the thing is, what I know is that you run a very sizable corporation with many different departments and revenue streams. Of course, you have your licensing, you have the 3 showrooms, you have a thriving interior design firm, which I understand from you that you are running at about 200 projects at any one time between the 3 firms. And then you also told me that you now have added a real estate avenue or revenue stream to your corporation. What are you doing with there? Are you flipping houses? Are you building developing projects and properties? What does that real estate look like?
It actually is. I was purchased by Pacific Sotheby's in April. So 1 year after opening, they acquired me. So it's still my name on the team, but the parent company is Pacific Sotheby's now. And all it is it's a brokerage for for sales and listings and so on. But the reason why I got into it is that I think it's really, really important that I have another branch, a referral area coming directly from my name in real estate to my name in interior design.
Mm. This is why I love talking with you, because your brain just, I love that. That's such a, here it is. If I do this, it feeds that. Your number one mission is your interior design, and that brand is, am I right on that? And then everything, the licensing, all of this, the showrooms, all of this support this goal.
Yeah, it's all been organic, to tell you the truth. My first license was with Kravet, or is with Kravet. Mm-hmm. And then, the whole licensing empire went from that point in my life to where it is today. Now, did I know that was coming? No. But I work so well left brain, right brain that I know how I can make a business successful, and I know how I'm going to have to push myself outside of what I normally do to become a better businessman.
Now, I kind of remember that from the first conversation, that the opportunity is there with Kravet and you work with them and it's a positive experience. And it was sort of like light bulb, like, I could do more of this, right?
Yeah.
And the truth is, you call it a licensing empire. It is very true. You have dozens of licenses at this point, right? You have several.
Correct.
Okay. And of course, to your point, there is a whole vertical in your corporation that runs that division, that it's a separate thing from your interior design studios.
Correct.
Okay. And so often we will be cautioned by others that, don't put your eggs in the basket of a licensing deal. There isn't necessarily a good ROI there, and yada, yada, yada. But that's when possibly you have a one-off and maybe you do or don't have the platform to really do something with it. You have more things in place than just saying, quote unquote, I have licensing deals. You have a massive platform to then put it out into the world. And that's a key component of the licensing deals being successful, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think that, when I watch what's going on and people wanting, to be involved in this aspect of design, it really, really takes a long time. I mean, I believe that Kravet I signed with over 17 years ago. So it doesn't just become an instant revenue stream. It just doesn't work that way. Right. So when people, think that's a solution, it's a long-term solution.
Right. However, good point. The 17 years are going to pass one way or another. So,
exactly.
Right. And that's exactly what I see you doing in your business every time I learn more about it, is that you're not worried so much about the quick turnaround. You're worried if it's a good decision, and does it look like it has legs? It sounds like the way your process works in your mind.
Yes, that's exactly what I think of.
Yeah, I love it. Okay. And how about, there are so many in the industry that remember back in the day, you used to call a record a one-hit wonder. You never heard from them again. They had one pop hit and they went to the Billboard 100 or whatever, and that was it. And I feel like there's so much about the licensing happening now. And to have a license with a company like Kravet, this is a coveted thing. This is a big deal, right? But then there's entry level licensing, it almost seems like. And yes, of course, if somebody's looking at it strategically, like what it leads to, this and that. But what do you think about somebody that is a one-hit wonder in licensing? I don't mean them as a person, but I mean about that idea in general. Like, what would you say to tell somebody or to advise them to have some legs and not be a one-hit wonder, and to capitalize on any little or opportunity they might have for licensing?
I'm very, very specific in choosing my partners. And so I spend a lot of time and figuring out who's going to be a good partner together, that we will work really, really well together. And that's kind of the basis of my thought process, is that I know we're going to have a long-term relationship, and it's really important that I choose relationships that will last.
Okay. And what do you do in that process, Barclay? Is it simply a series of meetings and you get to know the owners of the company and you just literally say, are these people I want to be in business with? And then do you evaluate their marketing potential, their machine, and what they're thinking? Tell us about some of the criteria that you use when you say, I'm choosy about my partners.
No, I actually don't. I don't even know if it's choosy. I think it's organic, to tell you the truth. If I get along with the owner or president of the company and they respect me and I respect them, the relationship starts to grow. And so, and you also have to prove to them that you are very, very capable of representing them, because there's a lot of people that don't understand this is a sales position. It is not just putting your name on product. It is a sales position. So that's the way I approach it. And I have to work hard for each person that I work with in licensing, and I have to work really hard to prove to them that we have great synergy. And so probably that's always my goal, is to create synergy that's positive on both sides and have mutual respect on both sides.
I love it. So it's like almost every important relationship of our life that you're evaluating it. Are we a good fit? Do we feel great together? I love that. That's your initial thing with like you said, the presidents and the different representatives of the company. And your, warning is well made. This is not, hey, thank you so much for, giving us your name on this licensing, and the whole world is going to open up at your feet now. It's now work hard.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Correct.
And you work hard in what are the ways that you say, okay, team, we have another licensing deal. Are we doing a round of panels at High Point? Are we doing blog posts? Are we doing speaking? What's your work hard when you sign a new agreement with somebody like Kravet?
Well, I think exposure is everything, but I also think it's important for you to connect with the client or connect with the end user. Mm-hmm. And if you don't, you're not going to see the opportunity grow. So again, it's a sales position, and you have to sell yourself like you do in interiors. The exact same approach.
And in this case, I mean, there is an opportunity for a firm of your size to, of course, have some marketing directed to the end consumer. But for the most part, the person you are selling to are your peers, your interior designers, who have the ability to specify your products for their projects.
Actually, it depends on the license, but certain licenses, I rely on the very, very big box store, boutique stores, that have maybe 17 stores in Florida. These are the people that I have to sell to and become very good friends with and respect them and understand their needs, because I have to make them happy. So then in turn, I make my license happy, and then it all works out, and then I'm happy.
Right.
So
okay.
That's so there are two separate facets. Yes, we sell to the interior designer, and yes, I sell to the massive, the people that are left in this industry that have brick and mortar.
Right. I was forgetting that. See, I was processing it through the filter of Kravet, because that's what my experience is. And I'm like, okay, so Kravet sells to the trade, so you have to attract the trade. But forgetting that some of your other licensors are, as you said, featured in these bigger furniture stores. And so that's the thing there. That's your relationship there. Have a relationship with those furniture stores that can say, yes, we'll take 50,000 Barclay Butera things for our 12 locations or something, right?
Correct.
Okay. It's a lot. You have a big job on your hands on top of running. This is actually a whole separate business. It's not, and I know that we said that it was, but I mean, every part about it is as different as running a design project as it would be if it were a car dealership. It's got its own initiatives. It's got its own goals. It's got its own, channels of distribution, and it has its own way of doing business.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but it all stems from my experience in the design firm. So however I manage the design firm is the way I manage that arm of my company also.
Right.
And so I have learned over the years how to manage a very large design firm and then implement that same thought process in everything else I do.
Right. And what it sounds like to me, it's funny because I interviewed Nate Berkus several months ago. And at one point, Barclay, I said to him, you mind if I ask you a question? I said, you have the TV show, you have the license line, you have the tremendous team in Chicago that runs the design projects and the trusted team leader there. Why do you keep the design? Why do you keep doing the interior design? And his answer was that by having real life design projects, by having real life interactions with real clients, it informs everything else he does. The different, the TV shows that he does, and then the products that he designs and the licenses that he has. And would you say that there's something there for you in that as well?
Yeah, I think very much we're kind of on the same thought process.
Because at this point, you are responsible for approximately 15 projects, yourself, in residential projects. Are they mostly residential? Am I assuming that properly?
Yes.
Okay. And so when you run a residential project, because you also have designers that run their own projects that you don't see anything. You don't meet the client. You don't get involved in the design. You don't approve the drawings. These are capable people that have worked for you for many years, and clients come in to your various locations. They want to hire an interior design project firm, and they execute without you, correct?
A lot of the times, yes.
Right. However, there's these 15 a year that are lucky to get Barclay himself, right?
Yeah, and again, I have a team underneath me that watches out on those projects. So if I'm traveling, for any division of my company, there's always someone taking care of what I've committed to back here or wherever that project may be.
Exactly. So on that team, you have a senior designer, a junior designer, and assistant. And so you are, as you said, the project is in great, capable hands if you happen to be off doing something else. But let's talk a little bit about this little nucleus, because that's probably the most relatable part of all of your day and your week and your month to the designers that are listening to the show. So in this nucleus, given the demands on your time as the leader of this big corporation, what is your system? First of all, 15 projects, my guess is they could be all over the country or the world. They are not necessarily all in the same demographic area or the same zip code, right?
They're not. And, the other thing that I tend to get is a lot of construction jobs, a lot of ground up work, which takes, years to complete. It's not the easiest thing to do because I would rather do, a furniture project, but for the most part, I get construction projects that turn into, the interiors and the draperies and the rugs and so on. But it does take quite a bit of time to get to that point. So when you do what I do, really, like, these clients become like your best friends or not. You know what I mean? So, and if they're not, then maybe it's time you maybe work with someone else in my company, or maybe it's not a good fit, period.
Right.
But, for the most part, I have really, really good clients that, respect my opinion, trust me, and, that I'm very proud to work with.
At this point, after 24 years in your own firm, and I'm sure experience before that, the 15 that make it through the gate to work with you, is it mostly referrals and repeats of your own clients at this point, or high-profile opportunities that your entire corporation will benefit from your involvement in?
Yes.
Okay. So now let's get to the nitty gritty of that. So you've got a lot of responsibility all over. The projects themselves are all over. What sort of mechanisms do you have in place, Barclay, so that these three team members that really do support you and probably have a ton of responsibility on their plate, how do you meet with them? Do you have the opportunity to meet with them weekly, monthly? What does that mechanism look like?
We're probably together weekly. Tell you the truth. I mean, my junior, senior, we had to go pick out lighting in Los Angeles yesterday. So we ride in the car for 2 hours each direction, and it gives us a chance to catch up. So I'm not always in town. So it's kind of like nice that we're given this opportunity to spend some time together, take them to lunch, make sure you end up learning about everything, their family, their husband, what's going on in their life, because I've built my company on personal relationships. And I'm very much, I'm a karma gentleman. So I believe in good karma, good management, allowing these people to be who they are, yet respect my opinion.
The thing is, what I remember from the first interview was your expressing over and over again examples of your employees that have been with you 10 and 15 and 20 years, that you really, and you promote from within. I remember you're talking about how somebody that originally started at a lower level accounting position had risen up and was now the the manager of the accounting division. And so, you're walking and talking the walk, or whatever that saying is. I always say it backwards, but that's the point. Like, you're investing in these people as human beings and looking out and creating a relationship with them, and then really mentoring them and having them grow up in your firm, right?
Yeah, actually, the president of my company started in shipping and receiving. So, I mean, that's how much I promote from within.
Isn't that something? That's amazing. Barclay, where do you think, you've mentioned a couple of times that some of these decisions that have come out so well for you have happened organically. But where do you think, if you had to say to designers listening, listen, you really need to lock down the business side. All the design will come if you run the business well. What's your advice? Like, where do they learn to run the business well? Where did you learn to run the business well?
Well, I grew up in the industry, through my mother, and my dad was in publishing, and my dad was, brilliant at what he did, and my mom is brilliant about her business. And so she trained me, the majority of my young life. And then in '94, I broke off from her company and created the company that I own today. We have drastically different taste in interiors. I respect what she does. She respects what I do. But I broke off and really created my own direction in life. Did I learn a lot from her and my dad? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Because my dad ran, a huge publishing side of magazines. And so he actually was a salesperson.
Mm-hmm.
My mom did about 240 model homes a year. She is a salesperson.
Mm-hmm.
So really I was grounded in a sales environment at home, and then relationships.
Very good. I love it. Well, with that, you're singing the praises here, because I'm always saying that if you are an entrepreneur, you're a salesperson. You have to be the rainmaker. You have to be the one that will go out and pound the streets and bring that business through the front door, right?
Exactly. That's what my parents did.
Yep, exactly right.
Yeah.
Okay. I love it. And so this team, you have the senior designer, the junior, and the assistant. What's their mechanism? So they have this opportunity to meet with you once a week within there. So you might have a project near your Utah location, and you might have another project that's, in Florida. But these three people, they support your projects wherever they are. They're not geography based. If you're doing design wherever in the world, it's the same three people that support you with that.
Correct.
Okay. And so when you have these projects that are all over, the senior designer is basically the chief of this little team and decides, okay, we're all going to be on site for this week, or this week we're going to work from this location. Like, give us a little bit about how the projects are managed and handled. Because there's a lot of, every design project has so much on the line, but your company is so high profile that it seems to me it's even more incumbent that the process for your client, your end user, is buttoned up, right?
Yes, absolutely. I would say, again, I give a lot of freedom to the design teams, and that structure, they rise to the expectation. So the more I'm like a family guy with my entire company, the more they understand how much I care about them, how much I care about the fact that I'm supporting not only 50 people, but their families. Right. So I take on a huge responsibility in making sure that these designers are successful, and we all accomplish great things together, because it's that synergy of relationships.
Mm-hmm. It's everybody having the understanding that it's all for one and one for all. We all do well, or we all fall apart, right?
Absolutely.
Right. Okay.
And you do hit those funny notes in life where you have to make tough decisions. And I'm a firm believer in the fact that I rule not with a strong hand, but I rule with kindness, expectation, and not by fear. I don't manage by fear in the least.
Right. And because it's ineffective, isn't it?
Totally.
Right? It just creates
Totally.
people hiding and going underground and working around and everything else. Then all of a sudden you have no idea what's going on, right?
Correct. Absolutely.
Okay. And then what do you do as the leader of your company as far as placing things in your business life with the team for accountability? Do you have, so you meet every Monday with your corporate leadership team, or do you meet with the whole corporate, do you meet with the whole corporate? Like, how does that work? That you said you have corporate meetings Mondays, designer meetings Wednesday and Thursday.
So on Mondays, it's just with the president and the controller and myself. And then after that, I'll meet with my brand manager over licensing. And then I also have a full-time graphic designer on staff. So we'll go over any kind of advertising, print materials, so on. It's all kind of office related, accounting on Mondays.
Okay.
On Wednesdays, it's the Newport design teams, and we will get together, discuss, the leads, what's going on with, projects that we're just starting. Is the relationship good? It runs the gamut, and then there will be vendors that come in and provide new training on products, and that'll happen the second half of Wednesdays.
Okay, and then you repeat that on Thursday with the other design team location.
Correct.
And then the Utah team must get a day somewhere in between too, right? No. Both California teams do one day, and then the Utah team is the other day.
Correct.
Okay. And so what about big picture strategic planning and accountability? Do you sit down with each of the teams in the 3 locations and say, we have revenue goals of this for this quarter, this month, this is our break-even number, and you set goals like that? Or do you do that with members of your corporate team and then deliver it to the teams on the boots on the ground, or do you work that strategically with them?
The way I set this structure up is the harder they work and the more consistent they are, the more money they make. So it's up to them to kind of like understand, what it takes to make a living as a designer underneath my umbrella. And the reason that you see so many people stay with me for so many years is because I'm really, really fair in how we spread out and share with everyone, not just certain people, but everyone. And the other thing is that I have a president who's very, very on the front line. Mm-hmm. And so if he needs to meet with a team, even if it's Park City, he'll fly up for a night just to, get control over that team and, the business development person that is in that office. So we all have the synergy in each location. Okay. So that's, kind of like the goal also is that we're all going after the same goal at the end. At the end of this, at the end of every project, we're all in the same thinking on how we're going to finish this project. Mm-hmm. I mean, right now we're working on a very, very large project outside of Aspen in Snowmass. And I think we have to deliver, I think it's 14 units by mid-January. Mm. So that takes an enormous amount of time, the shipping and receiving aspect, the installation. And, again, we're operating out of Park City, so the staff has to go to Aspen. But, again, our goal is to make sure that team is fully supported by mostly the president and the management at that location so that we don't fail.
Right.
So there is a backup plan to everything I do, like the 3 designers that work underneath me. If one of them, has personal problems and cannot be around for a month, there's always 2 other people that are going to be there for me and for themselves.
Right. And how about at what point was it necessary in your firm, in your company, to say, I need to hire a president or to promote the president up? When you were, I now have X amount of licenses and I'm out of town more days than I'm in town. What was that decision and thought process? Why did you do that?
Well, actually 2008 hit, and then you had to remanage. You had to figure out how you're going to manage your company from that point forward, because things changed drastically.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to adjust the company size. I had to release, high salaried CFO, COO. I didn't need that kind of management any longer. I needed to figure out how we can run as, again, like a small company, but not small. I mean, we're 50 people,
Right.
but I ended up taking people from inside my company and stopped going to outside sources to help me run this company. So I truly am blessed that I figured out how to handle that 08, 09, time, and how to correct my behavior on the way I was running my company.
So you're saying that you felt like it was running with more fat than was necessary, and the economy at the time supported it, so you didn't necessarily recognize that all of it wasn't necessary.
Correct. It's a learning lesson.
Sure.
And I went through a pretty strong learning lesson in that case.
I like that's a fun word, strong. So it's interesting because I recently was at an event where a designer asked me if I thought what I thought were some of the key steps to look at if I hate to say the R word out loud because I'm not putting any jinxy stuff into the universe. But it's bound to happen at some point, even if we pretend it's 10 more years from now, right? But the person said that I've never weathered a recession while I've owned my own firm. And I'm not even sure what I should do if it starts to look like it might happen. What would you say, looking back, that, if you were looking at somebody who is running, say, a $3 million firm and maybe has 6 or 7 employees and is really got a nice full pipeline, probably does 15 or 20 projects a year, but what would be your advice on, okay, thinking about a firm at that size, what would I say to look at if the world is starting to talk about the R word? And the world is not talking about it now. I'm just not jinxing it.
No. I actually, I get worried sometimes about these people with smaller firms that want to grow because, when I started out and maybe I had 5 or 6 people, I did well. So growing the business doesn't necessarily mean you make more money.
Right. That's true.
So it's a very, very fine line. And when I hear people say, I want to double my staff size by next year, and I try to say not a good idea, but people don't really, I don't know if it's the prestige of having a larger firm, but if you don't run lean, and I know that I have a big company, but I run it as lean as I possibly can in my, world of interiors.
Right.
But if you have a smaller firm and you feel like that's what you want to do, I get fearful for these people because most of them are creative and not business people, and then you get yourself into the position where you're getting too big to manage it.
Right.
So there's a super fine line in growing, I guess.
Well, and for me, when somebody says to me that their goal is to double the size of their firm or whatever, as far as personnel and so forth and revenues, I usually ask them why. Because to your point, if it's because I want to make twice the money, so I think instead of having 5 employees, I should have 10, and instead of doing 5 million, I should do 10 million or 2 million and 4 million. The reality is, to your point, you're probably not going to personally make a lot more money. You have to go all the way to where you've gone, like super big, right? But when you just go from 3 to 6, you personally, as the owner, are probably going to make about the same income. However, you are going to have a different role and you are going to have different demands on, maybe sometimes if the answer is to make more money, that's not a good answer. If the answer is, I'm not really interested in doing client-facing work any longer, but I still want to have a firm and I still want to be in business, and I really enjoy the interaction of going out and bringing the clients into the firm. Well, that's a good reason, isn't it? Because now you can empower people behind you to run great design projects, and your firm stays alive, and you do what you do best, which is bring people through the pipeline. But you might be making about the same money is the point, right?
Correct.
Yeah. I remember Window Works. We started, we were 3 of us, and then we were 5, and then we were 10, and then we were 21. And then I had a baby, And it was like, okay. And I was like the number one, I was like the one driving most of the sales. So I'm like, okay, I can't do 3 showrooms anymore. Close that showroom. And then I was like, okay, I don't want that showroom anymore. Close that showroom, I said to the VIN man. And the next thing we knew, we were back down to about 6 people, 7 people. And he looked at me after a year. He goes, we made the exact same money as we did when we were 21 people in 3 locations, because your expenses are bigger, right?
And you're running a machine.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And the management is it's so imperative that it takes you away from the creativity that really made you successful.
Right. So, and by the way, you can increase your income, but it's not necessarily a tit for tat. There's other things that have to go in it and drive other revenue streams there to it. But I think to your point, and like I said, I always say why. And then if they have a great reason, great, let's figure out how to do it. If it's not such a great reason, maybe we just need to retweak what you're doing and do it a little bit more efficiently, or look at the net profit margins and make those a little prettier, right? And make some more money that way, right?
You know, I actually I think this business is getting harder, and I don't know. My margins are less, and people shop, and so I really wonder like how we're going to approach this over the next 10 years with the millennials getting older. My clients are getting older where maybe they won't need as much work. Mm-hmm. They won't be buying so many homes. So I've also got to shift my thinking of how I'm going to survive the next 10 years and from there on. So if I'm looking at a business model, I have to look at a business model that's shifting every single day. And, you know, I hire a lot of people in their 20s, so I can understand what should I do to be on focus for the next decade. Right. So I'm kind of like constantly revolving, but again, my mind works like this. It works really, really well like this. So, you know, then I'll bounce ideas off of the staff, off of the corporate staff, so that I can hear other people's opinion before I go and make a decision.
Right.
I hope that answered your question.
No, it absolutely. All of it is informing us in all different ways. And I agree with you because I have the exact experience. You know, my company, Window Works, is at its 38th year. And it's so funny because on obviously a much smaller company and a whole much smaller thing, but the lessons are the same. Business is business. And the way you carry your business from one era to another, one decade to another, is exactly what you just said. It's thinking about how we do something now. Is this sustainable? Does this actually continue to drive business the way it always has? Or do I need to think differently, pivot, take ideas and inspiration from people that are coming up younger behind me? And to illustrate it from a Window Works standpoint, just the most clear example is that, you know, when I start this business with my husband and our cousin, I'm in my early 20s, and I literally started the interior design facing avenue of our business. I was the one who had the idea, and I literally opened up the yellow pages and I circled every interior designer that was in the 3 towns surrounding our showroom, and I cold called them and, hi, can I come over and tell you about our services? And, you know, 25 phone calls and 2 people say yes, and 1 person actually gives me a shot and lets me do some window treatments for them. But the reality is that you can almost trace every designer that we've ever worked with kind of back to that one moment. And so what happens is now you fast forward, and here I am doing this 38 years, and I still have designers that I have been working with from the very beginning, and they are retiring. They are in their 60s, and they're calling me now only because they're redoing something in their own home. They're not working anymore. And if I had never kept up that quote unquote outreach to new designers and always being something and reinventing us to always attract that next generation of designers, we would have no designer business right now. We would be like, okay, the 25 that we worked with are all retired. Instead, we've got probably 50 now that we're working with. And so I 100% hear what you're saying is you have to always be ready to evaluate, think, and figure out how you're going to take a successful company and keep moving it down the track, because it does take thinking and planning and strategy, right, Barclay?
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. So, so what else is on the horizon for you? You're just so, one of the things I wanted to ask you about on your website, you have probably a dozen or more charities named that you are supporting. And I wondered what that looked like. How is it that you are supporting them, and what is that mechanism?
Well, I obviously think that, success with it becomes obligation, or becomes, you can't keep it all. You have to take care of your community, and in that, your community will remember how much you support the entire community that you work in. So that's my thought process behind it, is that if I sincerely pick out the charities that I want to be involved with, schools that I want to be involved with, then all of those people recognize the fact that I'm giving back to the community, and not just saying, oh, well, I'm so proud of where I am, and, I don't need to branch off into these charity and the work for these charities, but it is imperative to part of my business plan to make sure I give back to the community.
I love it. It's so wonderful on your part. And is it a formal thing where it's a simple calculation at the end of the year, X amount of net profit is going to be distributed? Or is it sometimes it might be doing an event with somebody and partnering with them so that maybe more people attend, and other times it, might be doing a book sign? Like how do you have it? Because I'm asking not to be nosy, Barclay, but because people want to emulate what you're doing. And so I'm curious on how you decide, how do you give back to these organizations?
Well, for instance, with the 25-year reunion last Thursday, it was sponsored by Belvedere Vodka, Peroni Beer, Modern Luxury Magazines, and CASA, who is one of the charities that I support. And in turn, CASA has their very large fashion show tomorrow charity event, and I set up their Christmas. So 5 trees, ornaments. You can buy these special ornaments that support children in need. It's kind of like a very neat experience that happens every Christmas, and it's a fashion show, and I'm very much involved with the interior aspect of that fashion show.
I love it.
So it could be hybrids of anything, but it's kind of like they take care of you, you take care of them. It's very much, again, a synergy that you create between these people that really, really appreciate the fact that you care about what they do.
So basically, the advice in there is see what they need, right? Have a conversation. What would help you? How can you're a charity, you're an organization that I believe in, and what could I do to serve you? And in that case, geez, would you design these 5 trees and we'll sell the ornaments and la la la, right? So it's really whatever is like you said, karma. What's good for them and it's good for you.
Correct. And that's how I've built the company, period. So all the way through, just good karma.
And then the one final aspect of your business is the e-com site. Like you have a full, robust store on your website. So not just your physical brick and mortar locations, but you have the e-com. And so this is so that people all over the world can access your product and your design aesthetic and so forth, but it's also a legitimate revenue stream for your company.
I would say it's the most difficult revenue stream.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So, it's the most difficult.
Well, and what's interesting, Barclay, is it has been the buzz topic of the podcast over the last several months. I would say the last half of 2019. More and more designers that I've interviewed who are in business anywhere from 5 to 10, 5 to 15 years are adding e-commerce to their sites. And we've had discussions with designers who are at the very beginning stages of it, designers that are a year and a half into it. But It is something that more and more, I would say, designers in their early 30s through early 40s are, that I've noticed from personal conversations, are really developing and latching onto. But you're saying that it is the most difficult part.
Absolutely. The drop shipping, the damage. I mean, it's another entity that causes a lot of, you know, even small problems become big problems.
Right.
So,
Logistics.
yeah, and then your margin's gone. So you basically are selling it at cost.
Right.
So you make no money. So, I'm not a restoration, but if you look at restoration, like right now, they're opening more outlets than they're opening stores to handle all their returns. So it's happening even to the bigger entities that are a lot of e-commerce. So it is a very odd business model, and I think some people do it really, really well, but the returns are what kills you.
Gosh, I can't even, it's the truth. Just fathoming, how's that for a word? Just imagining it, in a day, the number of returns that must come in, and that whole, like you said, the nightmare of it. And are you selling things that are, so is yours set up where it's drop shipping from another location? It's not originating from your brick and mortar. Your brick and mortar team isn't like, okay, 10 more orders for blue lamps, let's ship them out. It's happening from other locations, automated through a different supply chain. Is that correct?
Yeah, if the company I'm working with does it, but certain companies, are in case packs, so I have to buy the case pack and individually ship the item to the client. So when you're in that situation, you're basically a fruition house, and it becomes much more difficult. It's not necessarily what you want to do. If you can drop ship, it's a much easier, way to sell product. So I'm dealing with both sides.
And do you choose to have that one side that is not as easy just because you have the ability, or a bigger company, bigger corporation, you have the ability to do it, and some of those products are just products that need to be there as far as your offerings because of who you are and your platform is?
I really don't know. I would tell you, it's probably our least favorite branch of the company in everyone's eyes. So if people want to do it and they're successful at it, more power to them. It's not my favorite thing to get involved with.
That's interesting, because I'm telling you, more and more are doing it. Younger designers are doing it. And my thing is too, is I caution them in the sense that it's a complete distraction from running an interior design firm. I mean, it is, you may as well open up, like I said, a car dealership. It's a completely different thing, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that if you stay focused on what brought you your initial income and don't branch out into things that you really, really don't understand how they're going to run. And if you don't have a warehouse my size, I mean, it takes a lot to handle that side of the business. It's not easy.
And before I let you go, let's just take a couple of minutes. You alluded to a few moments ago about the design industry changing, how you are recognizing that your profit margins are going down on product and so forth. We have so many designers that are consistently having this debate on product sales and, whether they should, because of the internet and because of the way e-com is changing our industry. There are many who are saying lean in 110% to your service and sell your services and your design fees and so forth. And others are saying, yes, of course, do that, but you can't survive and you can't make a healthy business without having product sales. Do you have an opinion on that?
Oh, I think the only way we make, fees are fine, but the only way that we really make our money is through products, where we make our big margin. So this whole Google Images, it's like crazy what it can do to us, because the client can take a picture and then put it into Google Images and up pops like 15 pieces and maybe one matches the product I'm specifying, and it'll show you where to buy it for the least expensive price.
And how do you handle that?
The way I handle it, and it happens it happens often, is that it happened last week. I basically said to this person, The item, we needed like 24 of them. And the gentleman priced me, and he found it like $150 cheaper at another location. So he brought me the quote, and I went to my lead designer and I said, we're not going to deal with this. They can receive it. They can ship it. They can unpack it. They can send it to wherever they're going to send it to for a receiving house, and they're going to deliver it to the house to their general contractor. I will not receive it in my warehouse. I will not unpack it. I will not make damage claims. I am not going to handle that sale in the least. So if you want to order from an outside vendor that you want to handle and pay them directly, they don't go to my warehouse at all. So that's the way I solve it, because it costs me a lot of money to run the warehouse. And if I don't make enough money to take care of that side of it, I'm going to lose money every time I think of it.
Right.
So I'm very, very strong. If even an outside vendor, which I don't want to go to specific ones, but we all know that there's vendors out there that are undercutting us like crazy. So my only solution is that let them ship it to their house. Mm-hmm. Let them ship it. Let them find their own warehousing facility and ship it there. Then they'll realize the importance of the service that I provide as a company. And so that's the way I handle it.
Okay. And let me ask you a clarifying question. When you said $150 less on 24 items, was that $150 per item or $150 on the 24?
Per item.
Okay. So that's a lot of money for that person. But I understand you're just like, great. You can do it. Do it. Go ahead. Right?
Exactly.
Okay.
And I think you're confident. You have to be confident about it. Like, I mean, I don't want to go to a specific vendor, but I have a client that decided to buy a bathroom basin kind of like piece of furniture, and have it delivered, and they didn't buy in-house delivery. And they come home and there's a big crate on their driveway
on a pallet.
Yep. And then they call us, and I'm like, not my problem.
Right.
You guys figure out how to unpack it. You get rid of the trash. Everything, if it's damaged, you guys handle the damage issue. I am not involved in that sale, period.
Right.
So if they really want to deal with that, let them deal with it. Right. They will learn and they will come back.
So I love this, because not only is it the actual how to handle it, but really the learning lesson here is standing in your conviction of it and not being wishy-washy about it and not saying, well, it's 24 items. That's a lot of money. I don't want to lose that sale. You're just like, no, go ahead.
No, I mean, it's very, very difficult to find your own warehouse and make sure it's unpacked, make sure it gets delivered, make sure there's no damage. Like, it's a lot of work.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Now, if it were probably your regular retail, your regular design, like that sounds like that might have been one of those development properties where there's, multiple units and you need, 24 lamps for 14 units or something. But if it were one of your luxury clients, and maybe it was, I shouldn't make an assumption. If it was one item, hey, Barclay team, the master bed that you specified for me is $10,000 and I found it for $8,000. You do the same thing if it was a project, like say that was $1 million project. Would you say, okay, so I guess find a warehouse for that and the other 14 things that you're going to torture me with?
It depends. It really depends.
It's tough,
and
right?
That situation is slightly different. But when I'm talking about 24 items, that was for the same house.
No, okay. So okay. Yeah. Okay. So the point is that we have a way of doing business and we protect that way first. And we run our firm in that way. We say our firm does the purchasing, I do the receiving, I do the unpacking, I do the checking, I do the delivering, I do the returns. You want to save 25 cents or $25,000, whatever it is, that means I'm out of the loop. But you will have individual conversations based on the full picture of the project.
Correct.
Okay. But the idea is that you have to decide how you will work first, right? You have to decide what is important to your team. You have to know that if they deliver 24 items to your warehouse and you own responsibility from that, it is costing you money because you are doing all of that labor for not one penny of revenue, let alone a margin that you should have gotten to begin with.
Correct. And to tell you the truth, I mean, we do charge for that service, but that service is such a big deal that, again, let them learn on their own, and I promise you they'll come back. I absolutely promise you they'll come back.
Yes, you've had people where they're like, yeah, sure, I'll do it myself. And then they're like, yeah, next time you do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And of course,
they call us in a panic.
Yes, right. And of course, for you have your own warehouse, but most designers are going to drop ship it to a third-party warehouse, right? But the principle is the same. You're paying your own people, your own real estate, your own machinery, and the same difference. They're paying for somebody else's product and service to do that, but it's still you have to watch you have to protect your margins, right? Because you can't go down blindly just thinking I've got a big $2 million project. If you're not making your margin on it, it doesn't matter, right?
Right. I mean, if we don't make money, we're out of business.
It's not about the top number. It's about the number that you keep.
Correct.
Exactly. Well, and to that point, for designers, whether they are a solo designer doing their own projects or they're a firm of 5 or 10 or whatever it is, and they're doing $4 or $5 million a year, I always implore them to do what I call the autopsy after every project, is to literally, when the project's done, is to pick it apart and really, how much did we pay in freight? How much did we pay in product? How much did we pay in fabric and and what did we take in? And actually look and say, okay, yes, made money on this, because I know from personal experience, if you don't pull those projects apart and really look at the cold, hard numbers, you just sort of can convince yourself that you're making money that you're not.
So I will tell you what we do is when an invoice, special order invoice, is placed and then goes to accounting, that goes to specific people that go and make sure that, like, when they go and request, a price from the vendor and that price is listed, then there's another person that will go through, and if we're not making the expected margin on that sale, it gets kicked back to the designer, and the designer has to charge more or we will not order it.
Nice.
So we know the profit on everything they order before we order it.
Love it. I love it.
Yeah.
See, you need to be that way because you have so many people operating, quote unquote, independently, right? You've empowered your team to run a design project for you, like in these different locations. So that's your way of setting the standard that saves the company. To your point in the beginning, is we all have to work together to create this company and create the clients that are happy, but also to protect the profit margins so that there is a company to run.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
And if I do it at the front end and we catch it at the front end, then we're not panicking at the end.
Right. I understand. Yeah, that's awesome. But so for now, interestingly, I think any designer could adopt that policy. But I guess when I'm thinking about it, it's more, I'm already starting this work process of working with a designer who basically at the beginning of our relationship together is saying to me, I'm not really sure if I'm making money. That's common. And so this is how I counsel them to break it down. Okay, let's take some projects. Let's break them down. Are you making money on these projects? And then to develop a habit of doing that. And I love that. So once you develop the habit and you absolutely know what your margins needs to be, then to your point, set it up front. There it is up front. And I think too, I guess for me is most designers would say, oh no, I know that I'm going to do on every product, it's going to be plus 35 or plus 40 or whatever it is. But I think for me, I always caution them and implore them to do the autopsy, because if you say that you're doing plus 35 or plus 45 or whatever it is, but you don't double check at the end, you do it can run away from you. You're not as tight. Well, why did we send that back 4 times? Well, it was ordered wrong 4 times by us or the vendor. No, us. Oh, okay. You see, that ate into our profits. Right? So what's our system there for ordering that we have to tighten up so that we don't make these mistakes over and over again? So, but you're way beyond that. You have done all those things probably many, many years ago, and now your systems are tight on the front so that everybody goes through with, like you said, eyes wide open from the beginning all the way to the end.
Yeah, that's the way I work. So, and I found it to be very effective.
I love it. I love it. Well, you are awesome. I just love you. Thank you so much for coming back on the show and talking to us. And I congratulate you on all your licensing opportunities that you've got, but most especially with our friends at Kravet. And I encourage everybody to go and take a look and call your Kravet sales rep and get your hands on this newest collection of Barclays. And if you've got a design center near you, please stop into a Kravet showroom and take a look at it. Barclay, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I have to say, because of this podcast, I mean, we are just so fortunate to hear conversations like this one, aren't we? I mean, where someone like Barclay comes in and shares with him the experience that he has gained from 25 years in business. Where else do you go? And you get the opportunity to pick someone's brain at this level and to hear the confidence that comes across from having done business for 25 years. Okay. And it's, what I love hearing in it is the conviction that it is a business and it will be profitable. You can get that from him, okay? Now, he also spoke about how he chooses who he will partner with, all right? And about how the people in his firm are important to him, which is evidenced clearly by his practice from promoting within. I mean, you can start out in the mail and shipping room and end up to be president of the company. This is a person who values loyalty and rewards good work, hard work, and loyalty. All right. I also love to hear the accountability he has in place through the processes and procedures that he has that ensure profitability on every item sold. All right. Barclay runs a multi-million-dollar company with several diverse revenue streams. So this is true that at that level, you need to do this, okay? Because just imagine the level of hands-off he is in the nitty-gritty of his business. But the thing is, whether you have a multi-million-dollar company or not, at its core, the business principles are exactly the same. The things that he employs are no different than what you should be doing in your firm, no matter if you're a solo or a mid-sized firm of 10 to 15 people. Okay. So, and if you're not sure about that, I want to encourage you to go back and listen to Sally Williams' episode. All right. She explained how in her firm, which happens to be, by the way, three people, 4 including herself. All right. She explained how she increased the gross revenue in her firm 40% in 1 year, from $640,000 to $900K. Okay. By doing one thing, getting real with her billing and her fees, okay? In her case, she went back to hourly, I should say, from flat fee, all right? But to the point that Barclay made, the second thing that she did, she established her non-negotiable markup percentage for every product sold. No wishy-washy. Okay. No, like, oh, well, you ordered from me before and I used to charge this. And, I know that other designers do this, so I'll do that. Okay. No, she made this change and her gross revenue went up. And you know what happens when your gross revenue goes up? As long as you're watching expenses, the money that goes into your kitty gets larger. All right. So you can really see, any of us can understand why a machine as large as Barclay has to have a built-in automatic do not pass go mechanism for orders that are not at the right margin. All right. He can't look at every single invoice. No one in his firm can look at every single invoice. So the stopgap must be built in. But in Sally, in her small firm, Sally built it in too. She made a promise to herself and she keeps it. And if that's the only thing you build in, just like Sally, that's good enough. Make a promise to yourself and keep it. If clients don't love it, they don't have to do business with you. All right. So whether your business is at several million, 1 million, or $200,000. You set the rules. You run the business based on sound business practices, and you will be profitable, okay? So, and if you say, I'm too small to do that, I'm too small to worry about that, well, then guess what? You're going to be too small to make some money, all right? You can do it. I know that you can, all right? Now, another thing I like is that Barclay has built-in support for his design team. Each client has a senior, a junior, and assistant that works on their project, okay? So, like, he said that he's got 200 projects going on at any one time. Like, think about this, okay? But by building this in, it shows the respect that he has for his employees and for the process. He knows what it takes to do the work well, and he provides his team with the support that they need to do it. I just love it. Speaking of support, maybe you saw recently on Instagram or Facebook that I'm hiring. I need some support. I am looking for, as Liam Neeson says in Taken, someone with a very particular set of skills. And these skills include a take charge person, someone who is fast-paced, truly efficient, driven, excellent writing skills, excellent relationship skills. This is a high-level executive position that I'm looking for, okay? And quite frankly, I know that this is me searching for a unicorn. I do know that. But just like Liam Neeson, I will find you and I will hire you. Is there anybody that knows the reference to this? I mean, you're probably all half my age. Anyway, so if you think you have the chops and you can stand to be in Luann's world, as my friend Michelle Williams calls it, email me, please, at info@luannniagara.com with your resume. And I want to thank My Doma Studio, too, before I finish talking with you. My Doma Studio is the best place out there for you to manage your interior design projects. Off the bat, let's just say, we have the entire curated Kravet collection right in My Doma Studio so that you can quickly and easily source rugs, lighting, accessories, mirrors, everything, so much more, all right? You also have QuickBook integration, and you can create client proposals and packages, which you can then invoice and collect right through My Doma Studio. Do you know what my friend Nicole Heimer of Curio Electro said when she heard about that? She said, I'm amazed by this one feature alone. She said, as a web developer, right there, not having to build a money cart into someone's website saves them so much money. Price of admission, right there, okay? So find out for yourself. Start your free trial at mydomastudio.com/awelldesignedbusiness. Now, the other thing is, in the show, I mentioned that I referenced my conversation with Nate Berkus to Barclay. And if you missed that episode, head over to number 433, okay? That is not only a chance to hear another outstanding businessman, but also another opportunity for you to learn about the collaborations with Kravet and to learn, just what it takes to run a successful business, okay? All righty, that's it for today. Go in peace, work hard, work smart, borrow some confidence from the greats like Barclay Butera, and above all, decide to be excellent. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at luannniagara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.